This program came to you from CBS.
Coming up on Late Edition, May Avenue is a mess after a destructive chase.
And somebody is watching you this weekend.
A turn for the better at the track.
And someone you can help this weekend just by making a phone call.
Those stories and more next on the very late edition of Newsline 9.
Join us.
KWTV 9, the spirit of Oklahoma.
Now, the #1 rated newscast in Oklahoma with Mike Carpenter, Deborah Lauren, sports with Rich Henkels, and Alan Mitchell with the weather. This is Newsline 9 Weekend Edition.
Good evening, and thank you for waiting up with us. The man who led law officers on a wild chase across northwest Oklahoma City is facing charges of assault with a deadly weapon tonight. Police say 26-year-old Jerry Guthrie escaped from sheriff's deputies today after being treated for a drug overdose this morning. As officers were escorting him out of Baptist Medical Center, he sprang from his wheelchair, jumped into a state-owned dump truck left idling nearby, and police say Guthrie then headed east on Northwest Expressway, where they say he deliberately tried to ram two sheriff's vehicles. Before the chase ended at a utility pole at the corner of Grand and May, police say Guthrie had rammed 6 parked cars and knocked down the signal lights at the intersection of 63rd and May. He's now being held by the county, which plans to file 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, in this case the dump truck, against him, among other charges. Oklahoma City police say they also plan to file charges against him, and they say he will be given a mental competency hearing sometime next week.
Oklahomans are taking to the roads this Labor Day weekend, and state highways are full of cars, some driving too fast. Catching the speeders is the task of the Highway Patrol. Patrolmen were catching plenty this morning with the aid of an OHP airplane, but the officers can't catch all the speeders nor all those who drink and drive.
The National Mothers Against Drunk Drivers to emphasize drunk driving today by driving with our headlights on. This is to emphasize the problem we have and try to bring attention to it.
So far, Oklahoma has recorded 1 traffic death this holiday weekend. The Highway Patrol advises drivers to buckle up, slow down, and, of course, watch out for the other guy. And there are many ways to die: homicide, suicide, accident, natural causes. Often, those deaths end up meaning more work for the state medical examiner and his staff. Sometimes the workload is heavier than at other times. Last month was one of those times, as Gan Matthews reports.
A pair of murder-suicides in Oklahoma County made August a busy month for the medical examiner's office. But that's the way August always is. Along with January, it's the cruelest and therefore busiest month for medical examiners.
We're a little ahead on our homicides in August of this year, but we're running pretty close to our 1987 year.
No one knows for sure why August is such a deadly month. The weather and the economy may provide the answer. But since 1984, the ME has performed a growing number of autopsies on an annual basis. That may have less to do with the weather and economy and more to do with changes in society. Medical examiners say these days they're asked by families and attorneys to handle more of the doubtful cases, where homicide and suicide are hard to distinguish.
The cases are becoming more difficult over the 8-year period that I've been with the medical examiner's office. In the investigation, in the determination whether or not this is a homicide or what.
And while demand for the services of the medical examiner is up, the supply of qualified examiners is fixed. And that's why even the end of August does little to ease the burdens of the job. Gan Matthews, Newsline 9, late edition.
One of those M16 rifles stolen from Fort Sill has been recovered. An off-duty soldier bought the stolen gun on the street in Lawton. He didn't know it had been stolen earlier in the day when a man dressed as a sergeant ordered a trainee to load 11 of the automatic weapons in a truck and then drove off. The truck has been found. The soldier has turned in the stolen rifle he bought on the street. Well, Remington Park's 3rd day was its busiest so far. By early afternoon, nearly 25,000 packed the grandstand. Most who came out for the first time were also first-time bettors, and not all of them understood the rules of the game. Officials say a lot of winners drop their tickets too early and miss out on the payoff. And some may unknowingly take a paying ticket home. If that's the case, officials say they can bring it back anytime and cash in.
Oh, yes, as long as that money's in the pool and it's here and it's being held in reserve, and it'll be paid out anytime that ticket is presented.
Winning tickets can be mailed in up to 60 days after the racing season is over, but after that, the unclaimed money goes into the state's general funds.
The Olympic Aquatic Center at Oklahoma City Community College is only a hole in the ground now, but that will change between now and next July. Groundbreaking for the $2 million facility took place today amid pomp and fanfare. The Aquatic Center will be the site for the swimming and diving competition during the July 1989 Olympic Festival.
Cooperative effort between Oklahoma City Community College, Oklahoma County, the City of Oklahoma City, and the private sector in the form of Oklahoma Centennial Sports, Inc.
Private sponsors still hope to raise money to enclose the center. The project is scheduled for completion by next May. Every year, thousands of folks give millions of dollars to help fight a devastating disease, muscular dystrophy. Tomorrow, TV9 will carry the Jerry Lewis Telethon. But tonight, we want you to meet someone who will benefit from your generosity. Newsline 9's Kim Cook has our story.
Like most teens, 16-year-old Jennifer Pierce has a part-time job, a boyfriend, and a dream.
I want to be an artist.
Unlike most teens, Jennifer has arthrogryposis, a rare neuromuscular disease, and one there is no cure for. She says sometimes even simple tasks are frustrating, but to her, giving up isn't normal.
I'm putting here for a reason. I just figure, well, might as well just make the best of it.
Jennifer knows her limits and doesn't take for granted what she can do. She can walk, but knows many kids her age with muscular dystrophy who can only dream of it.
I don't feel sorry for them because I know that's not what they want. But I treat them just like a normal person would, be treated. Because handicapped people aren't any different than anybody else. They just look different.
Jennifer will face obstacles all her life. She will never get better. But she hopes to live long enough to see others who will.
I'm not sure.
Do you think of yourself as brave?
Maybe going through life like this, having to adapt to other things, that's pretty brave, because I get real frustrated a lot. But I don't consider myself just real brave or anything. I'm just living my life just like anybody else.
Kim Cook, Newsline 9, late edition.
And the MDA Telethon starts tomorrow night at 10:30 on TV9.
And still ahead on late edition, people who think they can beat the odds of 14 million to 1.
A scare for 27,000 people.
And a former police officer turns on his former boss.
Commissioner hostage, and negotiations are not going well. Anthony Daniele is holding John Frank hostage in a downtown law office. Yesterday, Daniele was sentenced to 8 years in prison for conspiracy and mail fraud. Frank exposed the scandal. Daniele claims he's innocent and is demanding radio time to state his case. It isn't known if Daniele has a weapon. Dozens of officers have surrounded the building, but they're not close to reaching a deal with Daniele yet.
Leaking chlorine gas forced evacuation of a Los Angeles suburb overnight. 27,000 people driven from their homes as the leaking gas covered a 10-square-mile area of Commerce, California. 7 people were hospitalized. Residents were allowed to return to their homes after the cloud dissipated. In day 3 of their search for the cause of the Delta 1141 crash, investigators interviewed the co-pilot, but the more clues they get, the more contradictory the evidence becomes. They're still combing the wreckage at DFW Airport and listening to the plane's flight recorder. Cockpit conversations reveal one crew member saying, "We've got engine failure." But in looking at the engines themselves, experts can't find any proof of that.
They reiterated that there was no visible evidence of any engine failure or any engine problem.
Regarding the position of the wing flaps, conversations during a pre-flight checklist indicate they were in the takeoff position, but a passenger who sat above the right wing saw something change.
And then I realized we weren't going to get up. Then I saw him put the wing flaps up, so I knew he was trying to get it back down again.
Investigators are trying to find out if the back door of the plane was jammed and why the 13 passengers who died were unable to escape.
The machinists' unions say it will fight a new court ruling allowing Eastern Airlines to lay off 4,000 employees. But before the carrier can begin the layoffs, it must post a $4.7 million bond. The airline has lost about $1 billion in the past decade. Eastern's parent company, Texas Air, had planned to cut costs by reducing the carrier's flight schedule and laying off some employees. And it was a beautiful day. I wonder if the rest of the weekend and the holiday weekend will turn out just as nice.
Well, we can hope so for a couple of minutes and find out for sure after that. Alan Mitchell is next.
Suddenly you're racing off to see the wheel in Manhattan.
You can join Pat and Vanna when Wheel travels to Radio City on Eastern Airlines. You'll stay at the New York Hilton and Towers. Watch Wheel September 5th for details.
To the Big Apple with a friend.
We've got your ticket on Eastern, Wheel's preferred airline. Runner-ups win Wheel's new TV play-along game.
Watch Wheel starting September 5th to see how you can win on TV9.
Here's Alan Mitchell now to tell us what we can look forward to next week in the weather.
Oh, I tell you what, if I feel almost funny saying this because it's a holiday weekend, everybody likes nice weather, but I had a nice call from a lady today who said, don't be so gleeful about all this nice weather. She needs rain.
She wants some rain.
So I tell you what, how do you win? I don't know. Right now at 11:45, though, our temperature is 70 degrees here in the city. Humidity's at 36%. Winds out of the north at 9 miles an hour, and the pressure's rising now from 30.08 inches. Nothing to show you on the radar, so we'll check our stats. Record high on this day, 105 degrees in 1947. Record low 47. This morning dropped to 64. This afternoon's high was 89 degrees, right where we should be, right at normal. Low this morning was just a couple degrees below normal, so really not too bad a day at all. Around the state of this hour, temperature range from 60 right now in Gage out to 74, 71 in Ponca City, as well as McAllister, and 72 coming in from Ardmore. Winds got pretty gusty this afternoon, and right now they're only running about 5 to 10 miles an hour around the state, and tomorrow should be on the order of, say, about 10 to 20 miles an hour out of the north. Here's our satellite movie beginning at 4 o'clock this afternoon. The cold front came into the state, pushed all the clouds south, brought some drier air in it. Consequently, even though we had the cold front come in, the drier air allowed the temperatures to get quite warm across much of the state this afternoon, near 90 across about the southern half of the state. Now, we did have a tropical depression earlier that was setting about 100 miles southeast of Galveston. It has since weakened somewhat, but still spreading a lot of clouds and rain across much of the Gulf Coast. They have discontinued the tropical storm warnings that had been in effect for the Louisiana coast clear over to the Florida Panhandle. So consequently, the storm has decreased some. However, it does favor a possible re-intensification according to the National Hurricane Center by later tomorrow afternoon. Here's the latest satellite picture across the nation. A lot of clouds and rain to the east of Oklahoma. High pressure coming in. Those should keep temperatures really nice for the next few days. Right now, it's 62 degrees in Minneapolis, 66 in Kansas City, Denver 65. But look at the record heat out in the west today. 100 degrees at Yakima, 107 in Medford, Oregon this afternoon, 116 degrees in Redlands, California. Of course, 120 down Death Valley. That's always hot. But looks like if you're headed up that way, plan for the heat. Here's the forecast map for tomorrow. We've got another cool front coming towards the state. Looks like it may move into Oklahoma probably late Monday night or into Tuesday, but it will modify quite a bit before it gets into here. So no drastic changes in our temperatures, just kind of mild during the afternoon, right around that 80-degree mark for the next few days. Headed east out of Oklahoma, though, heavy rains, 5 to 7 inches along the Gulf Coast through sections of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and into the Georgia area. Up in New York City tomorrow, about 90% chance of showers and thunderstorms on the U.S. Open there for the tennis match, so it may end up being canceled. 80 in Albuquerque tomorrow, basically about the western two-thirds of the nation, just kind of sunny, a little bit hot way out west. Here's the 5-day forecast for the metro area. Dropping down to 56 in the morning. Sunny tomorrow, around 83 for a high. Then cool it down a little bit on Tuesday there with that extra little shot of air coming in, but looks like a gradual warm-up after that. And if you're looking for rain, I don't think it's going to come probably this week. Here's the forecast across the state for what's left of tonight. Clear and cool for the next 15 minutes anyway. North winds at 5 to 15. Lows 48 in Woodward to 60 in McAllister. And for tomorrow, looking for sunny and mild weather, north winds 10 to 20, highs 78 to 82, and for the metro area. Cool nights and mornings, but sunny and mild afternoons for the next several days. North winds tomorrow 10 to 20, looking for a high right around 83 degrees. So, you know, autumn doesn't officially begin until September 22nd, but I don't think you can tell by today's weather that it was still summer, could you?
No, you couldn't. It felt like autumn was right around the corner.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
Thank you, Alan. Well, if you're in the market for some handmade crafts or artwork by local artists, we've got a hot tip for you. The annual Arts Festival Oklahoma is underway on the campus of Oklahoma City Community College. The show features 200 artists and craftsmen and their work. You can buy anything from clay teddy bears to watercolor and oil paintings. This year at the festival, you can enjoy continuous live music performed by some of the most popular local bands. There's even a special section for children, just in case they get bored with all that culture. The show is free and runs through Monday.
Next, a candidate goes back to his roots.
And is there a disagreement on the issues on the Republican ticket?
Has endorsed raising the minimum wage. A wage hike is opposed by many businessmen. George Bush says he would support it only if the law created a two-level minimum wage, a higher wage for adults, a lower one for teenagers. But Quayle attached no such provision to his endorsement.
I think the correct figure would be around $4 an hour over a 3-year period of time or a 4-year period of time.
And was apparently unaware Bush had.
We haven't talked specifically about the minimum wage, but I don't believe I'm out of sync.
Republican leaders say Quayle's recent Southern campaign tour is a success. Now he plans to spend some time boning up on the issues in preparation for debates.
Meanwhile, the presidential campaign is turning into a fight for the American symbol. While George Bush is fighting for the flag, Mike Dukakis took a ride to Ellis Island to push the American dream. Dukakis says Republicans have put that dream out of reach, and he says Bush has buried it by saying the rise in unemployment is irrelevant. The Duke's charges cap a week of heavy campaigning, and he says the addition of former aide John Sasso has kicked the campaign into high gear. At the urging of Solidarity leader Lech Wałęsa, 2,600 striking Polish workers returned to their jobs, ending the strongest wave of strikes in Poland in 7 years. The 2.5 weeks of strikes, which at one time involved 100,000 workers, have forced the government to the bargaining table to discuss legalization of the outlawed Solidarity Union. The strikes all but closed down 2 ports and halted production from the Silesia coal mines.
Coming up next, Rich Henkels has the wrap-up on college football.
And a sport you may not have thought of as a sport. Rich Henkels with us now. Rich, was the game what you thought it was going to be?
I knew you were going to bring that up, so
well,
that's why I wrote what I wrote. You will see. Okay. If you tuned in at 6, as she did, I blew it. I said Miami, Florida State might be the best college football game of the year. If it is, we're in for some kind of a season, folks. Here's why. All Hurricanes tonight. They led 3-0 in the first when Bobby Harden intercepts Chip Ferguson's pass and brings it back to the 19. He grabs it at the 44, often running down the sidelines, only to get pulled down at the 19. Well, that led to a touchdown. It was 10-0 at that point. Still in the second, Steve Walsh goes to work. Touchdown pass to Rob Jasinski. Jimmy Johnson, he's pretty happy. He led 17-0 at halftime. Things really go bad. They really go bad. Randall Hill fumbles the bomb. Dale Dawkins recovers at the 5. Nothing went right for the Seminoles. Let's take a look at the final score, and you can see it. Ouch. 31-0. Please, let's have some better games than that this year. Utah State gets clobbered by Nebraska, a 50-point spread. Let's take a look. The Huskers have already won 2 games on this young season. Steve Taylor led the way. This is one of his 2 touchdown runs and an easy victory over Utah State. It'll be interesting to see what they do in weeks to come. Top 20 scores. Virginia Tech falls to Clemson 40-7. And out on the West Coast, UCLA and San Diego State, not a misprint, 45-0 in the third. Troy Aikman had 3 touchdown passes in the first half alone. Who knows what he'll end up with tonight? Texas A&M and LSU, no contest. LSU 27-0. Deborah Lonan, a happy young lady for that one. Tennessee and Georgia, good game for the first, 3 quarters, and then Georgia all the way 28-17. Let's take a look. They had the real thing down in Athens tonight. Bulldogs 1 and Bulldog 2. Then there was Rodney Hampton, who rambled for 196 yards and a couple of touchdowns, and the Dogs beat the Volunteers. Final count 28-17. Top 20 scores, 2 more. West Virginia, no problem with Bowling Green. And North Carolina, who plays OU next year in the Sooners season opener, 31-10. They fell to South Carolina. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane got the 1988 campaign off to a pretty good start tonight up at Skelly Stadium. They whipped Kansas State. Well, who doesn't whip Kansas State? Let's take a look. T.J. Rubley knocked out of the game early, but backup Frank Casano answers the call. He and Dan Biston get together all the way to the 3. Then Biston got the TD reception, and Tulsa led 6-0, went for 2 and got it. It was 8-0. Second period, Rubley back in the groove, a bomb to Eric Harrison, and they connect 15-6. Tulsa led, and that was all she wrote for the Wildcats. 35-9, the final count. Kansas State, they're going to have a rough year, folks. For a lot of football fans in this state, the season does not begin until next weekend. Oklahoma State will host Miami of Ohio, while the Sooners, as I mentioned, will travel to the East Coast for a matchup with North Carolina. One other Oklahoma football note, former Sooner Ricky Dixon is finally a Cincinnati Bengal. On the eve of the season opener with the Phoenix Cardinals, that'll never sound right, will it? Well, Dixon signed with the Bengals earlier today. He will begin practicing on Monday. Terms were not released. A couple of more seeds fell in Flushing Meadows, New York, home of the U.S. Open Tennis Championships. This upset has local flavor to it. Lori McNeil, who made a name for herself beating Chris Evert in the Open last year, had her hands full with Judith Wiesner, ranked 31st in the world. McNeil split sets but could not control her volley. Match point, an example of her frustration as the 9th seed falls 6-4 in the 3rd set. A couple of men fell as well, Miroslav Machir and Andre Lecomte. John Frawley of Australia on the warpath against Lecomte. The Aussies have now knocked out 4 of the men's seeds. Great passing shot there. Straight set victory. Play continues tomorrow. No other big upsets to tell you about there. Ken Green has the lead at the Canadian Open, turning to golf with Jay Delsing right behind. But 2 local golfers posted pretty good rounds themselves, and they pose a threat going into tomorrow's final round. Bob Tway carded to 66, including this birdie putt to finish 10 under par, 3 strokes behind Green. Tied with him, Buick Open winner Scott Verplank, who was 5 under for the afternoon. This an eagle for him. They'll finish up tomorrow if the weather holds up, and it was pretty wet out there. Plenty of action in the baseball world today. The best of it in Oakland with the A's and the Yankees. Get a look at this. The Yankees led 4-0, only to see it disappear with Jose Canseco's homer, among other hits. He went the other way and barely tapped the ball. Out it went. A couple of batters later, Neil Allen beans big Mark McGwire, and we have a Donnie Brook on our hands. Not the guy I'd want chasing me, McGwire, that is. A's won the game 5-4, though McGwire took an early exit. That's the 3rd time he's been beamed in the head in the last 2 years. American League scoreboard, 5-4 Oakland over New York. Minnesota by 2 over Kansas City. Rain canceled Chicago and Cleveland's game. They'll play a double dip tomorrow. Toronto by 3 over Texas. Milwaukee, no problem. They beat Detroit. Tigers continue to slump, but they lose no ground to Boston. They lost as well to California. And finally out in Seattle, 1-0. Seattle beats Baltimore. You have to hand it to the Montreal Expos, huh? They are out of the race, but there's not any quit in this team. Case in point, today's game with the Giants. Big Don Robinson on the mound for the Giants. Pascual Perez shot to right field. In comes Rafael Ramirez. Now, this is a collision that Bob Melvin will remember for a long, long time. Salt the wounds. Another run waltzes in while Melvin's on the ground. Well, needless to say, Montreal won that game, but it took them 13 innings to pull it off. New York beats Los Angeles 2-1. That is the 11th and 12th times the Mets have beaten the Dodgers this year. Cincinnati 6-4 over Chicago. Rain the problem in Atlanta. St. Louis falls to Houston 10-1. Nolan Ryan 8 strikeouts. And San Diego 5-2 over Philadelphia. They got to 500 for the first time in 2 years. Today was the 3rd day of racing in Remington Park. The 8th race was the feature race, the $25,000 Ladies Secret Handicap. Let's look at the results, and here you have it. Dearest Indu won, paying $31.60, $16.0740. Hasty Squaw came in 2nd, paid $43.20 and $8.20, and in 3rd place, To Show Croupier Lady paid $3.20 to do just that. There's an interesting tournament in town for those of you who grew up throwing a frisbee once in a while. I think everybody did that, I presume, anyway. 20th Anniversary Ultimate Celebration is being held at Lake Overholser, continuing tomorrow all day. 9 teams, 7 states playing in the Ultimate Frisbee Tournament. It may be an unfamiliar game, but don't let that scare you.
Not a national caliber tournament. It's a relaxing tournament to celebrate the fact that the sport's 20 years old and to try and interest people in Oklahoma just to learn what the game is and to come out and play. We need to start some new teams. People say, oh, I can't throw a frisbee. Well, if you practice, you can learn how to throw a frisbee, so that part's not hard. I'd say you just have to like to throw a frisbee and like to run. Everything else you can learn through practice and experience.
That's an exhausting game. I played that in college a couple times. That just wears you out.
When I first saw a frisbee, I'm dating myself here, but it was the one that was like a flying saucer, and it had the names of the planets around the top of it.
Oh, my.
That's a collector's item.
Yeah. Do you still have it?
You can, no, I wish I did. It's on top of a house somewhere.
Next, ready to take a chance.
And hoping for a record payoff. Count them, $52 million richer tonight. That's the estimated payoff for the nation's richest lottery in Florida. Enthusiasts stood in line for as long as an hour to buy a $1 chance. Officials estimate the machines were turning out about 850 tickets a second. Players turned to psychics, gimmicks, and every other kind of formula to beat the 14 million to 1 odds of picking the 6 winning digits. However, the winner does not even know himself or herself who they are. They will find out tomorrow, or actually later today, because it is after midnight, folks.
Yes, it is tomorrow. It is tomorrow. Right. Happy Sunday.
We'll see you later today, right?
That's
right. Good night.
Hairstyles for the Channel 9 News team furnished by Logsdon Hair Designers. Newsline 9 is the #1 rated newscast in Oklahoma.